Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Kuehn. I'm an athletics performance coach and the coordinator of data science at the College of William & Mary. Keir gave me the opportunity to do this presentation after a post on the NSCA College Coaches Facebook group that was looking for solutions for simpler and more cost-effective means of managing athlete data. The Google platform represents a great avenue to do this through, as it is both a cloud-based platform that gives everyone on staff access to information as it is maintained, and it functions in a very similar manner to Excel. In today's presentation, I'm going to show you how to set up the backbone of what will ultimately become your dashboard and your dashboards themselves. And it's my hope that these concepts will allow you to extrapolate out to any other forms of data you may want to visualize regarding your athletes. As an aside to this presentation, I've gone ahead and pre-formatted a lot of what I will be showing you and entering data into in the interest of time, as most people are just interested in the nitty-gritty of the formulations and calculations of setting all this up. So without much more to say, let's go ahead and jump right into it with our first tab, which will be the Settings tab. Again, this is one of those backbone tabs that will ultimately set up everything that you'll do regarding your athlete data. So the first part in this first array of column A is going to be kind of our logistical workings, and that's going to enable us to have the dates that we want to work from, the number of athletes that we're working with, and then set up our acute and chronic ratio workload time frames on the chance that we end up wanting to change those at some point. So let's go ahead and just start with a start date of September 1st. I'm going to go ahead and enter that into cell A2. The next cell down is the number of athletes, and we can either do this manually and count the athletes on our roster, or we can take one less thing we have to do when we need to reset our dashboards, and we can go ahead and use a counting formula. Now, you can't just use count because that's only going to count numeric values, so we have to use what's called count, and you see as I start typing, it gives me the description of the various formulas that I could use. So you see count, it says the number of numeric values. We're not dealing with numeric values, we're dealing with string text. So I'm going to use counta, open parentheses. Now, when you get to referring to your cells, and we'll talk through this with a lot of our other formulas, you can either use what's called an absolute reference or a relative reference. An absolute reference is the usage of the money signs in front of either the row, the column, or both the row and the column to lock a cell reference down. So because I'm not dragging this formula anywhere, I'm going to go ahead and just use a relative reference because it does not matter. So I'm going to type in C3, which is the first cell that I can enter athletes' names into. And you see it's already starting to give me a count of 1. I'm going to use a colon because I want to create a range. And then I'm just going to type C, which will count all the rest of the values within that column. Once I do that, you'll see it's counting 10 athletes and showing me the value that I'll get outputted from completing the formula. So I'm going to close parentheses and hit enter. And you'll see there that it counts my 10 athletes. As you can see, this cell is formatted a little bit differently than the date formula. And I like to do this to denote areas that data can be entered versus cells that should be left alone because they have formulas working. Just makes it easier to know where things need to be changed and where things need to be left alone because they'll work automatically. So the next one down are the number of days in my acute and my chronic, and for simplicity's sake, let's just go ahead and use 7 days and 28 days respectively. Should you want to come back later, or you have multiple teams that you're going to roll this out for, and let's say you do want to have them operating on different time frames for their acute and chronic workings, you can come back here and have a formula already set up and have your training load formulas working off of this cell value rather than have it manually entered within that formula and having to go back and retroactively change all of your cell workings. So let's just go ahead and put in our exponentially weighted moving average formula, the one that I like because I think the exponential decay that occurs when you have a rest period behaves a bit more like fitness does. So we're going to go ahead and go 2 divided by, and in parentheses, because of order of operations, A6 plus 1. Again, I'm using a relative reference because it doesn't matter. I'm not dragging that cell value down. And then we'll do the exact same for our chronic. So we're going to do equals 2 divided by parentheses A8 because that is our chronic time frame plus 1. And you see there I get those 2 values. And I'll end up referring back to those values when I get to the training load entry page. So that is the first part of my settings tab that I'll be working with. The next one are the roster tabs. And here I really don't have to do much because I've already entered all of my athletes and their data, again, in the interest of time. But I do need to set up a couple of named ranges that I'll refer back to just for making writing formulas out a bit easier. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight the athletes' names from Andre 3000 down to Keir when I'm flat.